Hey y'all there, Virtual Rafters. Thanks for clicking and welcome to round 2 of failed rich people trying to solidify their survival in an underwater world, Varuna Point. This is the 6th-story location in the game of Raft, and we're going to walk through the zone to reveal all the objectives along with the note and blueprint locations. Not gonna lie, this is my least favorite endeavor in the Raft storyline. The bulk of the gameplay is underwater, and it requires a lot of patience to get through. You're definitely going to want to bring along your oxygen mask and flippers, maybe more than one set. It would also be advantageous to have the headlight contraption found on the radio tower for this, along with lots of snacks and water. If you've sunk any time into the smaller trader huts found on the large island, then there's a recipe for the juicer, which you might find very helpful. It's the spicy pineberry smoothie that can increase your swimming speed. You'll need some chilies to craft them, so perhaps stock up on trash cubes on your journey to the sunken site. The beetroot shot can also provide extra HP in case you think you might need it, and as for weaponry, I recommend the machete as well as the bow with a few stacks of arrows. There are 2 obvious zones, above the waterline and below, with several sections to break down beyond the waterline into more depths. We're going to start this adventure in the sea by making our way through the apartments meant to house the world's elites. Elites in air quotes, of course. This section contains several notes and a blueprint as we complete the first objective of collecting light bulbs, which will allow us passage to the next zones. When swimming towards the sunken site, look for a long, clear tubal walkway which connects the buildings together. The building which has the large crane extending to the sky is our first mission. The entrance to the elitist apartment building is a large hole that's torn into the side of the decaying structure, marked by a large spotlight and a horde of jellyfish. Wait for the spotlight to flicker. This will prompt the jellyfish to scatter long enough for you to make entry into the building. Right at the center of the opening lies the first note left for us at this location. And those big red G's written on the wall aren't just for creepy aesthetics. You can usually find some loot crates by following the trail of markings, but they're also your main guide to passing through this zone. They'll give you clues on where to go, and if you pay attention to the notes, you might relate how this G got there. It seems to be that there's a menace at this location referred to as the Grabber, which I'll talk more about later in the video while doing some story analysis. We need to scavenge the apartment to locate all the light bulbs necessary in order to light up the central tunnel passage to clear out the jellyfish. There's no other way to progress. There are 4 in total needed. Search the rooms on both sides of the entrance for a bulb while being mindful of the new enemy that has entered the equation. There's some anglerfish with nasty sharp teeth lurking around many corners in this vicinity. Should you find yourself running low on oxygen by now, look around for the many vents scattered around the area marked by a stream of bubbles. Hovering in these areas will help you restore your oxygen meter. Both rooms on this side of the entry floor contain bulbs. One on the left, you'll find it on a desk, and the one on the right, it will be sitting in a bed in the back room. Once you've gotten both of these, swim back out to the elevator shaft that's near the entrance of the building. Swim up the elevator shaft to the next floor. The door on the left at the end of the hallway, you'll find in this apartment the second note of the location, along with another spotlight bulb. Should you need a breath of air, look up into the large gaps in the unfinished ceiling. There will be a crawl space that houses infrastructure that has air pockets for you. It is also the pathway to our next light bulb location from the second floor hallway in this building. Find the ramp that's leading up out of the water to a portion of the apartments above the water and search the rooms for the last bulb before exiting the building. Now for a little bonus, there's a cosmetic item that's lurking in the area below the entrance to this first portion of the run. To get this, swim down below the spotlight fixture pointed at the jellyfish to a giant hole in the side of the building. Follow the G marking at the back of the room and duck under a concrete ledge that has been squeezed between a metal frame. Near the back of the room, you'll find a construction hat sitting on some steel beams, which is just a little fun addition to your collection, especially if you're going for a full cosmetic completion. At this point, you can return to your raft for a break or for supplies. The next section has a bit of swimming and a whole lot of spikes, so I would recommend packing along some salves. With 4 spotlight bulbs on you, go ahead and install them into the light that's pointed down at the central tunnel. This will cause the jellyfish to scatter so that you can now access it. Make your way down to the only open end of the tunnel and into the building. Look for a room missing its ceiling for a clearing. Upon jumping up out of the water, look around in the rubble as the third note will be sitting on top of a box in this area. I totally overlooked this one the first time I ever ran through the place, even though it was right there in front of my face, and I just hadn't been paying attention. This area marks the beginning of a maze of spikes, old, unfinished, and broken construction materials with nails poking out everywhere. And this can be a bit of a hazard area to navigate around. So crouch, jump, and weave your way past the plethora of sharp obstacles around this floor. If you look around, you'll see these tripwires running along the floor everywhere. These are tied to traps which may swing from the ceilings or walls and smack you right in the face. Dodge if at all possible while winding your way around. Trustworthy took a few too many blows of these traps, and we had to revive him. They can take a considerable chunk out of your HP bar, and it wouldn't hurt to have a stack of salve in the action bar for emergencies. If you lose your way through the maze, look for those red G paintings on fixtures to help you find your way through. At the end of this perilous zone, there will be a large room to jump down into with a forklift and a dumpster. On the table, next to a mannequin that's fashioned with a traffic cone and a construction hat, is the fourth note, along with the Motherload key needed to pass through to the next objective. And don't forget to turn around and pick up the Advanced Headlight blueprint that's right behind you. It's not a huge upgrade to our existing headlights, but it's a way to expend some titanium if you've already been farming it. The stack of boxes in the rear of the room are a jumping puzzle to the next red G, labeling our way out of this mess. Just keep on following the markings. You'll know you've found the exit when you come across a drawing on the wall of two buildings of Varuna Point. Notice the indicators that are drawn. The little stick figure in blue is your approximate location now, and the red treasure chest is where we want to go to access the Motherload doorway. Exiting the metal doorways will lead you back out into the water, where you can immediately continue, or stop back at your raft to drop off some loot. I'm just gonna say, this zone creeps me out more than any of the other story locations. It's the one place that feels like it hits that survival horror threshold for me. Following in accordance to the diagram sketched on the wall left behind for us, start making your way further down into the depths. It's helpful or even necessary to look for the vents producing bubbles to restore oxygen meters on the way down. Although food buffs for swimming and breathing really do make this zone much easier. You'll be looking for another red G marking that's painted above a metal frame to show you a path to the next location. And behind that is a large roll-up door which can be opened with the Motherload key that you just picked up from the floors above. From here, we find the opening in the wall on the left of the door entrance. We wind down around and then look for every possible way to keep swimming down through the steel bar frames. We're going down through what used to be several fours, and just look out for those rogue anglerfish. Eventually, this will lead to another tunnel walkway with a roadway that's running between. At the end of the tunnel passage, there will be another roll-up door that's got a few tables in front of it. Those tables have some crates with some useful items if you've got space in your backpack, which this whole area is packed with tons of loot. But upon getting too close to this roll-up door, surprise! The bigger, even badder version of Bruce busts through the door to greet you, marking the beginning of the Varuna Point boss fight. Now, in this fight, there is no use in directly attacking the mammoth beast with weapons. Instead, we have to do a bit of outsmarting it. Note all the vents around the room that will allow you to catch a literal breather, because this fight will take a while to complete. This is a deadly game of peekaboo. We have to hide behind the pillars supporting the structure and wait for this shark-like thing to charge at us. When you've successfully tricked it into coming after you, the pillars will start to crumble, leaving behind metal bars that are exposed. Once the bars are fully exposed, swim down to the floor for a barrel full of explosives and return to the pillar. Hitting the action key will wedge a barrel between the rebar pieces. Now you just have to convince the shark by taunting to come at you again, and this time the barrel of explosives will erupt into a ball of flames, collapsing the pillar support. Every time a pillar is successfully removed, light will shine through a hole in the ceiling, marking your next level of the boss fight, and there will be 3 levels in total. Just keep repeating this process. As the floors go up, It will require more hits from the boss to weaken the pillar down to its exposed bars. And it helps to stay about mid-pillar, as the shark thing hitting towards the base does not seem to weaken the structure at all. On the final explosion, the boss will flip over and die, allowing you to loot it for a ton of shark meat and a massive trophy that you can mount on top of your raft. And I do mean massive. I hope you built some spare space for that. After the boss fight, there will be a clearing in the ceiling that will lead you to a staircase and up into rooms that are pockets of oxygen. Look around a bit for an office, as inside contains the blueprints for the wind turbine and the key for the crane that's mounted up on top of the opposite building. I tried to read what was on all the boards for the lore, but to no avail. It looks like this was an engineer's desk. They've got schedules and notes everywhere on the walls. And to get up on out of here, head up the yellow ladder that's behind a desk and through an opening in the ceiling. It's here we'll find a series of concrete pipes that will lead back to the water. You can catch a breath in room pockets that are along the way, as it does take a moment before you'll reach the large exit doors, which will lead back out to the tunnel that was previously blocked by the jellyfish. We're done with the underwater portion of this location at this point. It's mostly just a jumping puzzle from now on. You'll want to find the ramps that go up the outside of the building that lead to several bird nests, and then find your way onto the roof. Look around for an excavator that can be accessed by bouncing on top of some crates. Be sure to grab the note on the excavator's tracks before scaling up the arm of the machine to the next unfinished floor. At the top of the arm, there will be 3 broken pillars that are off to your left to bounce on to the next landing. Do a little turning to look around you, and there'll be another set of crates that will help you reach the scaffolding that continues on along the outside of the building. I can't even count the amount of times that I failed at this on my first run, but having the sprint toggled on sure helps a lot if you're struggling. When you reach the large yellow crane, scale on up the ladder and continue past the first landing and up to the second ladder, as there are some blueprints for the advanced grill and a note on the swing arm above. You won't want to miss these. After you've grabbed the note and the blueprint, let's climb back down the ladder to the platform that has the crane controls. Enter in the door, insert the key into the arm of the controller's chair, and then pull the lever on the left side to release the load from the crane. Right outside the crane control room is a zip line that can be taken directly down to the opposite building. A quick ride down this and you'll be on the roof, which then you can start scaling your way down to a luxury office space, probably the head contractor of this sunken site. Look for a desk that will contain the final blueprints for the advanced battery and a post-it note with the Temperance coordinates. When facing the desk, turn around and look behind you. There's a concrete tunnel embedded into the broken floor that will lead you back out to the water with exit doors that are just below the surface so that you can make your way back to your raft and you're all done. Spoiler alert, as with my previous videos in the series, I always do a little bit at the end about what's in the notes and how it relates to the story, so here we go. If you were to get the notes in order according to the book, it would actually require going to the top of the crane building first to get the note off the tracks of the excavator. It's seemingly written by a thief that's plaguing Varuna Point's construction. This klepto seems to take delight in quite a bit of the crimes. We find in his second note, the one at the beginning of the spike maze, that the construction crew has dubbed him the Grabber, and I suspect that that's the person who's been leaving us all the painted red markings that help us get around the zone. Like a true psychopath, they've convinced themselves that they can get away with everything, and perhaps at this location they have, which has led to its demise. In the third note, he seems quite proud of himself for discouraging the crew from further working on the above-water settlement. He recounts the gossip about people leaving for another settlement co-opted by rafters called Utopia, the same location that we've heard referenced in the story before, because perhaps isolationism isn't the answer to survival. But you'd have a hard time convincing the Grabber of that. He wants this sinking mess all to himself. In the fourth note, the Grabber mentions a couple of characters we've seen before. Reuben of the doomed city of Tangaroa and the boy Detto of Caravan Island. They must have stumbled their way onto the same route that we have, but quickly left after the Grabber made off with some of their tools. Quite a nasty human being this one is. I honestly debate what good it would do for one to be stuck here by themselves, but we know by this point that Reuben and Detto are probably still out there, having successfully escaped the Tangaroa madness. The next note has some revealing consequences for the Grabber, a sign of things to come if he continues on his mission to rid the settlement of all other humans. He encounters another character from the previous location that has managed to stay alive. You can tell that this is Bruno, given that the Grabber references a man that's talking to dolls. And the Grabber just couldn't help himself and stole one of Bruno's dolls that had become Bruno's coping mechanism for loss and insanity. It's such a cruel thing to do. Perhaps the Grabber will be the next to lose his sanity, as isolation does have some ramifications for the human brain. In the final writings from the Grabber, it shows his obsession with the Motherload location at Varuna Point. We might assume that the boss shark that we contended with during the run-through was the Grabber's final fate, as there is this little scribbled drawing that resembles the behemoth, and no more notes to be found from the prolific thief. The only thing left were coordinates for Temperance, but could they have possibly made it there to start terrorizing all over again? Well, maybe we'll find out in future notes. But otherwise, good riddance to this antisocial personality that narrated us through this space. Their madness started before the isolation could eat their brain, but as you can tell, there's some recurring characters popping up in this story that tie this thing all together. We're merely following the same pathways that they've come across before us. We're just following the coordinates that have been left behind in hopes that maybe someday we'll find this utopia and those who survived the same trail that we've rafted. It's leading us through the breadcrumbs of what happened to put the world underwater, and our next location holds some significant clues trustworthy, and I've already been exploring that next island, and I won't give away any more of the plot here. But we'd love to have you join us on our next adventure to Temperance. I'll be doing a guide on it, going through some notes, plus I have a bunch of other random raft build videos if you're interested in those. There's a whole playlist just for Raft on this channel, but for now, that's all, and thanks for making it this far through the video. Take care, all, and bye-bye!